Welcome back to Horrors Worldwide. Today, I'm going to explain an American independent horror film called Night of the Living Dead, released in 1968. Spoilers ahead! Watch out and stay safe. The film starts with Barbra and her brother Johnny, two bickering siblings arguing about the long journey from Pittsburgh to an abandoned cemetery in rural western Pennsylvania to visit their father's grave. As they got out of their annual trek to the gravesite with a wreath of flowers, thunder and lightning threatened. A staggering, stumbling, pale-faced zombie figure in a disheveled suit approaches and suddenly attacks Barbra. Johnny pulls the zombie off from Barbra and struggles with it, but is knocked unconscious and possibly dead after the zombie thrusts Johnny's head violently on the edge of a gravestone. The zombie then pursued the helpless Barbra into their car, where she found that she didn't have the key. Barbra locked herself in for protection and released the car's brake and gears to coast downhill. But when the car sideswiped a tree, she was forced to abandon it and run down the deserted road to a nearby, isolated two-story farmhouse for refuge. During her exploration of the empty house, she grabbed a large butcher knife at a kitchen drawer for protection and attempted to phone for help, but the line was dead. From a window, she noticed that an additional army of ravenous, trance-like zombies were approaching the outside of the house. At the top of the staircase, she discovered a half-eaten, partially mutilated body of a female. As she panicked and fled from the house, she was flooded by the bright headlights of a pickup truck, driven by a man named Ben. He was looking for a safe place to spend that night from what was happening outside. After beating off her attacker, Ben joined her in the house and agreed to help Barbra. As they were speaking, one zombie somehow gained entry into the house and threatened Barbra, forcing Ben to wrestle him and strike him in the forehead with his tire iron. Barbra stared down at the face of the dead ghoul, noting that it moved, until she realized that Ben was dragging the body across the floor. Outdoors, Ben set the body on fire to intimidate and scare off the other zombie creatures who were afraid of flames. Knowing that they were trapped and surrounded inside, Ben decided to board up and barricade the doors and windows to be secure with Barbra's help. As they were securing the house with pieces of dismantled furniture and wooden boards, they both shared their experiences of their first encounter with zombies. Ben tells Barbra about an incident at Mayhem, and Barbra tells him about the incident with Johnny in the cemetery. After securing the windows and doors, Barbra wants to go back to the cemetery and save her brother, but Ben told her that Johnny was already dead. Barbra slapped him, and he punched her back in the face, rendering her unconscious and incapacitated on the sofa. After some time, Ben resourcefully lit a fire in the fireplace and then used a makeshift flaming torch to ignite an armchair doused in a lighter fluid that he had dragged outside to scare off the attackers. Ben was exhausted after solidly boarding up and securing all windows and entrances into the house and paused for a cigarette. He was relieved to discover a rifle in a closet and a shoebox filled with ammunition as Barbra awoke. That was convenient. He felt confident about their security, the gun, their food, and their contact with the outside world through the radio, and believed that they were bound to be rescued. Suddenly, Barbra is startled when the cellar door opens and two men emerge from the basement. Ben is attracted by her screams, and they confront the newcomers. An older middle-aged man introduces himself as Harry Cooper, and the younger man is named Tom. Harry says that he has his wife, Helen, and his daughter Karen in the basement as well. Karen has been hurt and cannot be moved. Tom has a girlfriend named Judy, also in the cellar. The domineering, loudmouthed, know-it-all Harry insisted the safest place was in the basement if they boarded up the one entryway, although Ben disagreed as they carried on a lengthy argument. There were unspoken racial and generational tensions between Ben and the older white family man. Ben was angry that the newcomers hadn't volunteered to help him when he was feverishly working to protect the home. Harry's wife, Helen Cooper, and their injured ill daughter, Karen Cooper, were bitten earlier on the arm by one of the ghouls and remained in the cellar. 8 to 10 rotting flesh zombies with outstretched arms were seen approaching the house, and as Ben walked away by a partially boarded up window in the kitchen, hands reached out to grab at him. Ben fired rifle shots at the intruders, but the body shots were mostly ineffective. Dozens of zombies emerged, including one nude female from the morgue with a burial tag still attached to her wrist, and another one who ate a squirming worm off a tree trunk. Harry angrily says he's going back to his family in the basement and will barricade the door, and Ben agrees to defend everything in the upper part of the house. Harry's wife, Helen, obviously in a troubled and frustrating relationship with her husband, and exasperated by him, objected to being locked down in the cellar. After Tom announced that Ben found a television set upstairs,
Mr. Cooper, Ben found a television set upstairs.
Let's go up. Tom?
Yeah.
If Judy would come downstairs for a few minutes, Harry and I could come upstairs.
Helen decided to join the others there. The television was brought into the living room, with a group assembled to listen to a broadcaster describe how the first reports from eyewitnesses had been met with disbelief. The broadcast continued, with a university official reporting that corpses needed to be cremated immediately, without time for bereavement or a funeral, before they reverted or reactivated in a matter of minutes to flesh-eating zombies. After the broadcast, the group decided that their best solution was to reach a local rescue station, and the nearest one on the scrolling list, displayed on the TV, was Willard Medical Center, about 17 miles away from their location, to seek medical attention for Karen. Ben proposed an escape plan that involved creating Molotov cocktails to be hurled from an upper window to keep the zombies away while they fueled the pickup truck at the farmhouse's outdoor gas pump. As planned, Harry tossed the fire bombs from the upstairs window, while Ben, Tom, and Judy drove the pickup truck to a gas pump a few hundred yards away. Tom accidentally splashed gasoline onto a torch that Ben had placed on the ground next to the truck, and as Tom tried to drive the flaming truck away from the pumps to prevent further damage, it exploded in an engulfing ball of fire and killed Tom and Judy. Ben held off the zombies with a torch as he rushed back to the house, but found that Harry was so terrified that he had been locked out. Ben kicked open the door and, after securing the door, fiercely beat Harry with 4 punches. Outside, the voracious zombies converged on the corpses of Tom and Judy and consumed their charred body parts, bone fragments, internal organs, and entrails. Another report on the TV at 3 a.m. described how the levels of radiation were still steadily rising and implying that the danger would exponentially increase and more flesh-eating ghouls would develop from reanimated corpses. The report included an in-depth look at a search and destroy mission that was underway to destroy the marauding ghouls by local Sheriff McClelland in Butler County. He had reported to the Pentagon's command center that the only methods that were effective in permanently killing the deadly horde were a gunshot or heavy blow to the brain, or by incineration. Later, after the lights went out due to downed power lines, and Ben defended the house from further attempts of the ghouls to break in, Harry struggled to get control of Ben's dropped rifle to take charge. After grabbing the rifle and taunting Ben, Harry ordered his wife to the cellar, but then the two men wrestled for possession of the weapon. Ben seized the gun and lethally shot Harry in the abdomen, point blank, and he stumbled into the cellar to die. After being assisted by Barbra, Helen also retreated to the cellar where she found her ghoul-bitten young daughter, Karen, consuming her husband's corpse. When Helen cries out seeing her daughter, she was viciously stabbed with a triangular garden and then eaten by Karen. Upstairs, during further undead attacks, Barbra's zombified brother Johnny grabbed her and pulled her outside, where she disappeared into the middle of the horde. Overpowered and surrounded, Ben turned and saw Karen attacking him, but pushed her aside and protectively locked himself in the cellar. Ironically, this was the one thing he had vowed not to do as the ghouls took over the house. To prevent the corpses of Harry and Helen from becoming reanimated ghouls, he shot both of them in the head, and then waited until morning to be rescued. In the morning, the undead mob has left the house and dispersed. The sheriff with some people approaches the house and kills the remaining zombies lurking around the house. Hearing the commotion of gunshots, Ben cautiously goes up the cellar stairs into the living room and peers out the window. The sheriff from the newscast sees Ben and orders one of his men to shoot him. They mistakenly shot sole surviving Ben in the forehead after his desperate fight for survival, believing him to be one of the living dead. His body is carried from the house and burned in a large bonfire with the rest of the zombie corpses.